what they're going to present today. But let me just start with Global Chamber is a one-of-a-kind virtual and growing community of CEOs, executives, and leaders in 525 regions around the world. We're focused on helping companies grow in more than just one metro. We're the only organization in the world with hundreds of locations that help executives and their companies grow through warm connections and a variety of services and events like we have today. Today, we have a collaboration from 3 metros. We have Chicago, Cincinnati, and Denver. The focus of the market resource is to learn about the resources available to businesses. Always a priority that businesses need to know. And today we'll discuss business loans, exporting, and improving on your existing businesses. So first, let's start with the introductions of 2 of our chairs from our offices in Chicago and Denver. So let's welcome Brad Johnston from Denver and then Greg Tanner from Chicago. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is a great collaborative event, one of many that we'll have this year, showing the value of the chamber. Like Jeff said, I'm the chair of the chamber in Denver, and we're very excited to have the guests we have today, Patty, Margot, and Mike. Can't wait to hear them talk about the amazing resources that our states and federal government have for people trying to do business abroad or from abroad coming into the United States. So thank you very much. Again, very excited to have everyone. And this is, as Jeff said, a collaboration between Denver, Chicago, and Cincinnati. And to that segue, I'll introduce Greg from Chicago.
You're muted, Greg.
Thanks. Sorry.
We definitely want to hear your great words. So,
thanks. Good afternoon, good midday, I guess we should say, for everybody. Today, I'm really excited that Chicago, we have Mike Fazio presenting today from the U.S. Small Business Administration, Export and Finance Manager. So I'm excited to hear all the great things that on resources that all of these great speakers are going to have today, and I'm excited to have everyone take notes and hear a lot of good things about the resources our people have to say here. Thanks.
Thank you, Brad and Greg. I appreciate your comments today and for joining us. So let's start the program. We will have a Q&A at the end of the completion of the speakers portion of our session today. So let's start with the introduction of Margot. Hope I don't brutalize your last name, Markopoulos.
Very good, thank you.
It's probably going to those Greek restaurants in Greek town.
That always helps, right, Jeff?
Who has served as the director of the Illinois Department of Commerce, Office of Trade and Investment since 2015, and as the Export Program Director since 2012. So let's welcome Margot.
Thanks so much, Jeff. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to join this webinar. I'm really happy to be here. I hope everyone's doing well, staying safe and warm. My name's Margot Markopoulos, and I head the Office of Trade and Investment at the Illinois Department of Commerce. Also happy to join my colleagues, Mike and Patty from the SBA. We work very, very closely with the SBA on lots of different programs, so it's wonderful to share some resources today with all of you. Today, I'll talk a little bit about Illinois' global footprint and resources that our office offers exporters. So Illinois is blessed with a diverse economy. You'll see on this slide, we're the 18th largest economy in the world. And last year, Illinois exported over 62 billion, which supports over 800,000 jobs. Jobs in the latest technologies with, of course, opportunities for our employees to work in the global supply chain. On the next slide, you'll see Illinois' top export markets, which include Canada, Mexico, Australia, Germany, and China, with, of course, Canada and Mexico accounting for over 40% of Illinois exports. And exporting goods from Illinois, specifically in industries around machinery, chemicals, computer products, and food products. Next slide. Our office, which is otherwise known as OTI, because of course government loves their acronyms, is a bureau within the Illinois Department of Commerce. And our mission is to serve as the state's bridge to the world by promoting Illinois as a foreign direct investment destination and by opening international markets for Illinois companies. Our mission is to raise Illinois' profile by offering assistance to companies. We do international promotion and logistics support, market intelligence and international protocol, export assistance and education, foreign investment promotion and lead generation, trade mission coordination, lots of educational exchanges, sister state and organization agreements, and just about anything that has to do with international at some point is going to come across our office and on my desk. So we work very closely with all of the other agencies in the state of Illinois, as well as our counterparts within the federal government and the local governments as well. On the next slide, you'll see our global footprint. We're headquartered in Chicago, and we have 6 offices around the world. We have offices in Canada, Mexico, in Belgium, Israel, Japan, and China. And these are regional offices dedicated to helping businesses achieve their international business development goals, of course, with the ultimate goal of creating and retaining jobs locally. We have a robust global network. You'll see the SBA is front and center because we do work very closely with our partners at the SBA. We also work very closely with Exim Bank, with the various chambers of commerce, thus, of course, our connection here today, both local chambers as well as foreign chambers of commerce. We're very fortunate here in Illinois to have the Counselor Corps located here in downtown Chicago, which gives us, of course, the opportunity to work closely with the foreign governments and continue to offer opportunities for the companies that we assist. For our Illinois companies and organizations, as I mentioned earlier, we have lots of programs and opportunities for them to expand their global footprint. We offer market intelligence. We work closely to establish partner searches, identify distributors and agents for our firms. We do a lot of business-to-business matchmaking for companies that are looking to find distributors, agents, and partners. We lead lots of different trade missions, many of which are to industry-specific trade shows. And of course, right now in COVID, we're not leading live events, but we have been participating in leading events on a virtual platform. So there are lots of different virtual trade missions and trade shows that our office has been promoting and participating in and recruiting Illinois companies to participate to sell their products. We do pre-trade show and post-trade show company promotion and assistance, handle logistics support for our firms, as well as any foreign government advocacy. Since we do have a global footprint through the foreign offices, we're able to really establish a Illinois presence in these markets to assist companies that may experience some challenges, or they're really looking to identify a closer linkage with the foreign governments where we have a presence in. On the next slide, and I know that's what everybody has dialed in here today to talk about, is the financial assistance that the state offers, in particular to exporters. So aside from the counseling and the technical assistance that I mentioned earlier, we manage a program called ISTEP. And that program really puts federal and state dollars directly into the hands of exporters in order for companies to participate in trade events, to travel to particular international markets in order to meet a distributor or an agent. They can also use these funds to localize a website or to establish an e-commerce site, which of course right now, again, during COVID is extremely important. They can also use these federal dollars to achieve product compliance, which again, now since we have been grounded, so to speak, many companies are taking advantage of these last couple of offerings because, you know, they're finding themselves at home and really taking a deep dive and look to see how they can continue to expand their companies locally and be prepared for that next step when they are able to start traveling again. This program is a cost-sharing program, which helps reduce the financial risk associated with exporting. And it does allow companies to apply for up to $27,000 per year in reimbursements. So a great opportunity for the firms to take advantage of for sure. On the next slide, we'll see, we've kind of broken up those buckets, as I mentioned before. Really want to highlight the different aspects of this program because I think it does offer a little bit for everyone. The center column, which is identified as group trade missions, really is, I would say, the most turnkey program that we offer. It's a program which our office leads. We participate in trade shows, as I mentioned, and in many cases will purchase booth space at major trade events around the world, or will lead trade missions to different key markets around the world. Our trade managers will recruit companies and work closely to make sure that we are achieving company goals and bringing them face-to-face with potential buyers or agents while they're in that market. We typically will lead anywhere from 15 to 20 different trade events per year. As I mentioned, of course, right now we are managing virtual trade events as opposed to the live events, but hoping that the end of 21 and the start of 22 will allow us to get back to live events. The individual foreign market mission program was established because we realized that we can't offer a virtual trade or an individual mission for every company within every industry. So this particular vertical really allows companies to choose a market or trade show within their industry and seek reimbursement for market intelligence, trade show participation, and the distributor partner searches that I mentioned earlier. And then the last category, of course, dives into that website localization, search engine optimization, e-commerce support, which is so critical right now. And because of the importance and inability, of course, to travel to many of these markets at the current time, we have increased that ceiling for reimbursements for companies. So companies can apply for up to $6,000 in reimbursements to put towards their website localization plan or e-commerce plan, or to achieve product compliance if that's what they're interested in doing. The next slide will show company eligibility. Essentially, companies that are established in Illinois and have been operating for at least a year have a product that contains 51% US content and 25% Illinois content would be eligible to apply. But I would like to emphasize that even companies that may not be eligible for the federal program can certainly work with our office. We offer lots of educational webinars and tools to help companies expand internationally and get them ready essentially to participate in the financial assistance program that the state offers. I think I'll go ahead and end there. Certainly, if there are any questions, I know we're doing a Q&A here at the end. Happy to answer any questions. I look forward to working with everyone to help you sell your products around the world and help you achieve your export goals. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you guys.
Well, thank
Thanks.
you, Margot. I appreciate that. It was very insightful. We hope that people will reach out to you with any additional questions or even have some questions at the end of the session.
Perfect.
So now let's move to Patty Brewer, who's one of the newest export finance managers for the Small Business Administration in Colorado, joining 21 colleagues from around the nation who help small business finance their exports. Also joining, they're going to be doing a collaboration here. Mike Fazio is the export finance manager with the U.S. Small Business Administration, And he's based in Chicago and works with banks and SBA resource partners throughout Illinois and Wisconsin to increase access to capital for our small business exports. So Patty, Mike, welcome. And we look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks. So Cesar, do you have our slides, or should I share my screen? All right, great. So Mike, do you want to kick it off?
Way to go, Cesar. You rock, man. Mike muted.
Yeah, Mike, you're muted.
Oh, Mike, check your audio because it says you're not muted, but we cannot hear you now. No.
Cesar, you sound pretty good.
Yeah, I would recommend Patty if you can start and like help Mike with the
Yeah.
audio. That would be great.
Yeah.
Sure, I can certainly get started. So Mike and I are both from the Small Business Administration's Office of International Trade, and we're here to talk to you about export finance through the Small Business Administration. And exporting is both a defensive and an offensive strategy. So it's been proven that companies that are involved in international trade, they are more resilient, they are stronger companies, and they are more long-lasting companies. And because of that, we are trying to encourage exporters, or I'm sorry, we're trying to encourage small businesses to get involved with exporting and become more resilient in that process. Next slide, please. So SBA lenders can utilize the 7A loan guarantee programs for business loans up to $5 million. Now, this is a lender-driven process. The small business works with the lender to get the SBA financing. This isn't something that the SBA provides direct financing. It's a process through the lender. And in order to incentivize lenders to participate in these programs, we've given lenders a 90% guarantee on the export finance programs. Next slide, please. So a small business is a company that fits a certain definition within the NAICS code. So any wholesaler, for example, with less than 250 employees is considered a small business. Professional services like engineering might also be considered a small business if they have annual revenue of less than 38 million. Next slide, please. Another way to determine whether or not you're eligible for SBA financing is to determine if you have a tangible net worth of less than $15 million or and a net income of less than $5 million. So if you fall within those criteria, you're definitely a small business and eligible for SBA support. Next slide, please. So the SBA has created 3 loan programs to help small businesses in their exporting. These are the Export Express, which can help you cover the cost of developing a new export market, and then the Export Working Capital, which helps you finance your foreign accounts receivables. And the third program is the International Trade Loan, which is an excellent facility for expanding your export capacity. So I'll provide details for each in turn. Next slide, please. So we've got the Export Express, and this is just a very flexible program. It's a smaller program with a cap of $500,000. Now, it's kind of known as the Swiss Army knife of lending because the lender can use their own underwriting standards and their own processing. And if the bank likes the transaction, the SBA likes the transaction. You can use the Export Express to cover the costs of entering a new market, like developing or translating your website, your legal fees, trade shows, intellectual property, any other export marketing, pay for certification from the FDA, or to get your CE mark. You can also use the Export Express to support performance bonds or standby letters of credit. And so The performance bond works like this. You'll contact your foreign buyer and you'll say, I want payment in advance. And the foreign buyer says, sure, I'll pay you in advance 100%, but you have to put up a performance bond. So when you put up that performance bond, it needs 100% collateral. But if you do that performance bond under the Export Express, you only need to provide 25% collateral. So you free up a bunch of cash up front. Let's talk now about the Export Working Capital Program. Good job, Caesar. So the Export Working Capital Program essentially collateralizes your foreign accounts receivable. Typically, lenders are reluctant to loan against export-related accounts receivables and inventory, but under the EWCP, the SBA gives lenders a 90% guarantee to advance against their foreign accounts receivable. So here's what happens. You set up an EWCP with your lender, essentially a revolving line of credit, and then you sell that product. You sell product to your foreign buyers on terms 30, 60, 90 days. Then you take that account receivable to your lender and you request an advance, typically 80% of the invoice. 30, 60, 90 days from now, when your foreign buyer pays that invoice, you automatically pay down your line. And then you start again with another foreign invoice. In a nutshell, that's the EWCP. Let's take a look now at the international trade loan. Right. So the international trade loan it's the most commonly used of the 3 export programs because it's the standard 7A loan with an international twist. Lenders who have SBA's PLP authority, essentially they're a preferred lender under the SBA. They like to do this program because they can do it under their own authority. And it's also good for borrowers because if you've got a strong export track record, it's easy to make a lender comfortable with your track record. So if you're looking to expand your export presence and expand your capacity, the ITL can help you with permanent working capital or a term loan to support retooling your shop or expanding your warehouse space. The exporter does have to provide an export business plan that outlines the company, its export experience, the products being exported, the countries they're exporting to, and how the loan proceeds are going to help you expand into your foreign market. But the SBA isn't the only game in town. Next slide, please. We've also got the STEP grants, which Margot spoke about, but the STEP grants are available all around the country, and they're administered by each state. So you can go to the SBA website and get contact information for your state's STEP grant administrator, or you can contact me. I'm happy to get that information for you. So you can use the STEP grant to defray some of the costs associated with prepping for the foreign market, including translating your website, getting export training, paying for product certifications, attending trade shows or trade missions, researching or meeting with prospective foreign buyers or distributors. So if you're interested in a STEP grant, just give me a call and I'll give you the contact information for your state.
Hey, Patty,
Mike,
can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Are you ready to take it on?
I will take over. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. I'm using the old-fashioned cell phone now. So I'll just start out real quick. Just wanted to thank Jeff for including me in this presentation. Great to be here with Patty to talk with you all. The most important thing I think you can get out of these presentations is our contact information. We tend to throw a lot of information at you from an SBA perspective, but also when we include others in these presentations, it's like, oh man, what do I look at first, or which question do I ask first? So for us, the best thing is to have one-on-one meetings with you to talk about your small business and how you export, or you're exporting to, or talking to your lender directly about how we can help you with our programs. So thanks again for having us. Also, it's great to be here with Margot. Illinois is one of our best partners nationwide, and not only using the STEP program, but working with us and our other federal partners to help small business exporters. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit here. Patty did a great job with an overview of our programs and then talking specifically about the 3 export finance programs. I'm going to talk more about economic relief overall, due obviously to the pandemic. It started out with the COVID-19 Economic Relief Act last year, where PPP loans were available to small businesses through their lenders. At the same time, the EIDL advance was out there along with EIDL itself, and that stands for Economic Injury Disaster Loans. So pretty much what the federal government did is threw everything they could at the wall, see what sticks and who it can help. And now we're moving into the next phase of that, which is businesses that may have slipped between the cracks, and that's domestic as well as export businesses. So next slide, please. So I believe we're going to provide this information to everybody so you have it as a reference. But as Patty said, you're welcome to contact either one of us directly to help you navigate some of this information. We may not have the answer for you, but we can either find it out for you or we can get you in contact with the right person. As it pertains to PPP, your best resource is your lender. And if you haven't participated in PPP yet, there is the second round going on right now. Start with a lender that you already do business with. And this is pretty much good advice no matter what. People that already know you, they have your personal credit information, they have your business credit information. So it's going to go a lot smoother if you work with them directly. However, if you run into some sort of a roadblock in working with your lender and you need some assistance with that, let us know and we'll do what we can to work with your lender or to introduce you to another lender in order to get it done. Something new, the second thing on the list is the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. Different from PPP, targeted to specific operators, may not apply to anybody in this audience, but we like to put the information out there in case there's somebody that you do know that might benefit from it. And you can share this with them. You can have them contact SBA. The next thing is the EIDL loan, Economic Injury Disaster Loan. So that's where you can have a combination of things that you may tap into to help yourself or to help somebody that you know, you refer them to the information. This is great to have as a reference, but I think what you'll find out is a lot of this information changes. And you'll hear one thing from a government official, a congressman, a senator. You may hear another thing in the media and might hear something completely different from friends, family, colleagues, whatever. Your best resource to look at things overall is SBA.gov, SBA.gov. If you go to our homepage, at the very top of the homepage, it directs you to all the information that you would need to look up which one of these programs might apply to you or somebody else that you're trying to help. So start there. And if you're looking for more details, absolutely reach out to us and we'll get you to the right place. Next slide, please. Now, this is, again, a lot of information, but it's important information. Debt relief was something that came along with the Relief Act last year in 2020, and now we're in 2021, a new fiscal year for SBA as well. In fiscal year 2021, debt relief, that was something that was available to SBA borrowers that had received 6 months of payments on their loans. That was something that was done directly by SBA. SBA basically made the payments on your behalf to your lender. There are some cases where there's additional debt relief available to some borrowers. It is unique to certain business types. This is something that is paid by the SBA, but the loans are still administered through your lender. So check with them first, see if your payments had been made for you, see if you might qualify for additional payment relief in this new fiscal year. They may know, they may not know. Every lender is a little bit different as far as their experience in dealing with this. and how closely they're working with their customers. But again, if you feel like there's any kind of issues in working with your lender, let us know and we'll see what we can do to help. One big thing that you'll notice out there is the increased guarantee percentages. So the 3 loans that Patty talked about, Export Express, Export Working Capital, and the International Trade Loan, typically those are the only SBA 7A loans that have the 90% guarantee. Well, due to economic conditions from the pandemic, the guarantee fee or the guarantee has increased to 90% for all of the 7A loans. One important distinction, though, is that's temporary. Our programs are permanent at up to 90%. And these expire on September 30th, unless there's some new legislation that happens between now and then. And the second thing is, with that 90% guarantee and SBA's cap of $5 million, you're limited to the 90% guarantee up to $3.5 million of coverage with the temporary program, whereas with the Export Express, Export Working Capital, International Trade Loan, you have the ability to use up to $4.5 million of guarantee coverage with your lender. So again, a little confusing. If you're curious about what might apply to you or not, let us know and we'll talk about it one-on-one. SBA Express loans, this is something that's also temporary until September 30th. The cap has been raised to $1 million. The guarantee has been increased to the benefit of the lender to 75%. If you go up to 350, anything above that, up to the $1 million cap, gets a 50% guarantee. And those guarantees are for the lenders. That's to help them mitigate risk in lending you the money. We're encouraging them to help small businesses and small businesses exporters by providing higher guarantees in these times. Also, the temporary fee reduction is very important. That applies to all 7A loans, and our 3 loan programs are 7A loans, so they are included in that reduction. So that's a big savings to all small businesses to avoid the fee, depending on how big the loan is. The bigger the loan, the bigger the risk, the bigger the fee. So if you're looking at doing a good sized loan, and typically you would pay a 2 or 3% fee, if that goes away, it could really help for your working capital purposes short term. Next slide, please. All right, so this is the network of export finance managers across the country. So as Jeff introduced Patty, he showed that she is located in Denver and she serves the state of Colorado, Montana, Utah, and Wyoming. And then my office is in Chicago, Illinois, and I cover Wisconsin and Illinois. And you can see there's all sorts of folks across the country, from Arlington, Virginia, covering areas on the East Coast, all the way out to San Francisco and Los Angeles, covering the West Coast. And we've got coverage in Alaska, all the way down to Louisiana. We go all the way out to Guam and U.S. Virgin Islands. So there aren't a lot of us, but we cover a big territory, and we feel fortunate to be able to do that, to work with small business exporters and lenders and resource partners all across the U.S. and our territories. So you can see there's the direct contact information for each one of our colleagues, email address, phone number. Again, I think that's the most important information you can have here, because if you're in Illinois or Wisconsin, you know that I'm your guy. And if you're in Colorado, Montana, Utah, or Wyoming, Patty Brewer is your point of contact. And if you don't want to talk to either one of us, you have a whole list of great people that you can reach out to, or refer other people out to. If you're in Illinois right now, but somebody that's right over the border in Iowa that could use some help, well, we've got our colleague in St. Louis that you could contact, and he can give them a hand. So I believe this takes us to the last slide, where we say thank you, which is sincere. You can see there's a more detailed link, sba.gov/trade tools. So that speaks specifically to this audience. But again, if you're looking for something in general, just go to SBA.gov, look at that homepage. At the very top is where it talks about COVID-19 relief and all these different things with higher guarantee percentages, fees that are waived, payments that are made on your behalf. All that information is right there. Otherwise, best way to really to reach us, we'd have phone numbers too, but if there's a specific time that you want to talk, send us an email and we'll set up a conference call, do a one-on-one. We can do a Teams meeting and meet face-to-face too, if you prefer. So thanks again. I will mute my phone here and wait for some questions.
Well, great. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. And Patty as well. Thank you so much. It's a wealth of knowledge that you're sharing today. And for those of you who want to just, love to hear things over and over again, we have this recorded. So just reach out to me and I'll send you a recording of it so that you have it down. Sometimes you have to hear things multiple times to let it sink in. At least for me, it does. Well, now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Larry Hart. He's the Global Chamber Executive Director in Cincinnati. And Larry's going to facilitate our Q&A today. So if you have questions, you could put it in the chat or put it in the Q&A. And then he'll facilitate those questions to our speakers today. And then we're going to have Margot joining us again for the Q&A. So welcome, Larry.
Thanks, Jeff. Bring it on, you guys. So I think the first question, I've got a whole handful of questions, but first of all, Margot and Mike and Patty, thank you so much for taking your time to be here today and share all this stuff with us. One of the things, Mike, you said pretty early on was, look, we're here for you and we like the one-on-one thing, and you were clear about contacting us. We're here to help. And, maybe that's the most important thing we all get out of this. And if you don't want to watch this over and over again, Jeff style, pick up the phone or shoot an email off to these folks. And it sounds like everyone will be very helpful. Well, the one question that came in before I dive into a few of my own is, the coronavirus thing is on all of our minds. And as you were explaining, Margot, early on, the events just aren't happening like they were before. And many of us have been to the McCormick Center there in Chicago, et cetera, and done trade events of all kinds around the world. How is the coronavirus impacting trade finance globally? And then maybe you can continue on in terms of what your expectations are when you see those events coming back, and then maybe even what that might look like. How's that sound?
Thanks, Larry. Obviously we're all hoping that we'll be able to return to live events soon. Unfortunately, I don't know when that soon is going to be, but
yeah, we're going to need an answer on that, Margot. If you could just spit it out, it'd really be helpful.
Believe me, I wish I knew the answer to that question. Right now what we were, monitoring is really what's going on globally, and obviously trade shows have been impacted around the world. It isn't just in the United States. Impacted our office actually earlier than most, given that we have an office in China. We started seeing things turn very quickly last year, at the end of December, early January, with events kind of being converted to somewhat of a hybrid and virtual model. I will say that converting all of our programs to a virtual model has been a great opportunity for companies to still remain engaged. We've done trade missions and trade shows to various markets, allowing companies to continue to further, their exporting goals. Continuing to make a dent and move things forward, which I think, under their circumstances, of course, is very well received. Many of the live events that were originally scheduled for April and May have now been shifted to the fall. So we are seeing that international trade events are continuing to kind of get pushed out into the later part of this calendar year. And I anticipate that that's going to continue. Yesterday, we had another trade show that we were looking to participate in that also just rescheduled for early 22. So unfortunately, it's outside of our control, but we're staying flexible, and I think that's kind of the name of the game at this point. Helping companies, achieve their goals as best we can from this virtual platform, and bringing folks face to face with potential distributors, agents, and partners, so that when they do have that chance to get back on the plane and head overseas, that they are ready to sit down and hopefully signing that contract, and continuing to make those sales that they're anticipating to make.
Good, thank you. I hope that if that doesn't answer your question about the trade finance thing, just throw something in the chat there. But Patty and Mike, do you want to throw anything in there as part of an answer to that question?
Yeah, I'll make a couple of comments. Hopefully not too many.
Well, we can always cut you off, Mike, if we need to.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I don't have the best technology, so. What I've been experiencing in my market is a couple of different things. One of them is there's actually been more opportunity for some small business exporters, but they haven't been able to scale up to meet it. They were used to just using operating funds or just a small line of credit, and they were working with more of the bigger banks. I don't want to throw any names out there, but some of the big nationwide banks that have offices all across the country, they were okay with having the deposit accounts of these companies that were working off cash. But when it came time to say, hey, we're looking at doing some export financing, generally $5 million and below, it's really not worth their time. So, and this kind of leads into the markets that I work in with lenders is usually it's not the big nationwide banks that are doing our 3 export finance deals. It's more often the middle-sized banks because they have the ability to deal with bigger numbers without being too big themselves. And you don't have all sorts of different departments that you have to coordinate. You don't have to coordinate the loan officer in Chicago with the SBA officer in Philadelphia and the international trade person in San Francisco. Everybody's basically under one roof, and they're able to accommodate those smaller businesses a little bit better. So I've been making those introductions and trying to help those small business exporters establish those relationships with new lenders. And I think in most cases, they're still going to keep one foot into each side. They'll probably still have some sort of deposit or wealth management relationship with the big dogs. But with the mid-sized banks, they'll probably still do more of their lending and grow with them. The second thing I wanted to mention just happened this morning. I was talking to a community bank that wants to use our programs for one of their customers for the first time. And it's actually because of more opportunity for their borrower in Canada for their product. And it does have to do with this COVID-19, where in Canada, for the product that they produce, they've lowered their production to accommodate other things, but there's still a demand for the product in Canada. So this business in Wisconsin wants to ramp up its production in order to serve that market. So it's a mix of good and bad, but overall, my message still is talk to us. There's got to be a solution to this, and we'll help you get there. I'll turn it over to Patty then.
So yeah, I think I have 2 points in terms of COVID. The first is contingencies, just planning for those various contingencies that happen when opportunity strikes. So for example, I was working with a recycler and they were shipping product to India and the ports were shutting down because of COVID. So that was just completely out of the blue. We hadn't planned for it. It was going to be an expensive error, but it was certainly something that was going to affect the company's bottom line. So looking at those contingencies and asking yourself when these emergencies start happening, what could go wrong? What mitigants can I put in place to stop something bad from happening? And then the next one is just keep those open lines of communication with your buyers, with your borrowers, with your bankers, with everyone, because at some point you're going to need to make phone calls, really fast phone calls to answer questions like, are you open? Are your banks open? Are the ports open? Can you bring your employees in? You need to be able to have those have those quick lines of communication to answer the questions when the emergency strikes.
Well, I think everybody appreciates a certain sense of urgency on that there. And Mike, I like what you said about the local and mid-sized bank thing, because we all have banking relationships, and there can be anyway a big difference between a big, let's say, national bank and a local big bank, or medium-sized, or however we're phrasing that. And I think we can agree, usually anyway, there's a real sense of character-driven relationships that go on at that smaller bank level that probably, especially within the last year, serves to be very helpful. So good tips. So Margot, you mentioned earlier you called it something like a business-to-business matchmaking relationship that you all can do, kind of customized to meet a person's needs. And I would guess among all of us on this call here, we all kind of come from different places and we do different things and all. And I'm intrigued about that. Can you give us some examples? Because Mike and Patty, you both brought up very specific examples of, what you were talking about in just what you said there a minute ago. And Margot, does that make sense? Can you throw a couple of those out? How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So the role of our office, both domestic team as well as the international team, is to really try to hone in on the needs of the company. If they're looking for a partner overseas or a distributor in order to sell their products, our goal is, of course, to try to find the right match. So we will go ahead and research who those individuals might be, help to vet those leads for the company so that they're not cold calling, they're actually meeting with a potential buyer, distributor, agent in that respective country. We'll actually help schedule some initial calls, some introductory calls with that company so that they can have that first engagement. And then, of course, with the ultimate hope that the Illinois firm will either be visiting that market to meet this potential partner face to face, and further along, of course, that business opportunity, whatever that may be. And, we're using, of course, the example of a company, a manufacturer, of course, is the best example, but we also work closely with organizations and institutions. Sometimes we'll have universities reach out to us and ask for similar assistance, or it could be a hospital that's looking for some type of relationship or engagement, some kind of sister city relationship or sister state relationship. So it could be, various ways that we're kind of engaging in that business to business or business to government or government to government kind of relationship.
Is it only in those 6 cities that you mentioned that you have offices in, or those countries, or are you open to any country?
Yeah, so we have global coverage. We only maintain those 6 offices that are located in strategic markets, but they are regional offices. And essentially they are reaching out and partnering with others in other countries where we don't have a physical presence, but we do have a relationship on the ground.
See, that's really cool. So a company in Illinois or, any state that would have a similar operation to what you're doing. So I'm in Cincinnati, for example, but let's just use Illinois since that's the focus of the call. So a company wants to do business in Europe and they contact you, you reach out to Brussels, the office there, and you talk about the pros and cons and kind of like what you said, who are some good matches, and you can actually vet some of those and really prepare and set up some of those introductory calls. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a really great opportunity for companies to engage one-on-one with a potential customer or partner.
Yeah, that's powerful stuff. All right, I just wanted to make sure we were clear on that because that's something certainly worth promoting. And, in the Global Chamber, we do a lot of that here. With the Global Chamber landed here in Cincinnati just, 6 months ago or something. And Jeff, you've been doing it there in Denver for a few years, and the Chicago crew's been there, a couple of years now. So, in some places this is relatively new, but you could be a great resource for us. And I think vice versa, to kind of tap into some of those things that we both do, but from maybe a little bit different point of view. So that's cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I don't want to dominate the question and answer thing here, but are there any other questions, Jeff, from you or Brad and Tanner or you guys? Otherwise, I'm just going to keep going.
You're on a roll, so keep going.
I'm on a roll. All
Stop.
right. So in the chat, you'll see a couple things from, there's this guy, the India experts there. I'm not sure how that is. Is it Permina or whatever? We help India experts. Looks like that's through you, Jeff. All right. So I'm going to keep going because I think that when you combine the efforts that the three of you can put together, and it sounds like you all know each other pretty well, let's go to the money side of things, because I know the conversation shifted a little bit when Patty, you kind of introduced those three things, and then Mike, you wrapped up on the three different ways to tap into financial resources that you all have. First of all, that whole Export Express thing of having only, did I hear that right? You only have to put up 25% of that bond or that security that has to be held. That's huge. And is that a program through the SBA or exclusive just to you all? You keep a lid on that there in Illinois.
Well, you can support the performance bonds through both the Export Express and the Export Working Capital Program. So
Okay.
I'm not an expert on SBA's domestic lending. I can find out for you, but I do know that that's offered through two programs through the export finance options.
Okay, cool. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah,
Was
and
that
Export
Mike?
Express isn't exclusive to Illinois.
It is?
It's not. It's not.
Oh, it's
Export
not.
Express. It's one of our
sharing
three
that.
programs. So we.
Yeah. Okay. I want to
But
make
an
sure I heard
important
that right.
distinction is. Yeah, an important distinction is only certain lenders are able to use Export Express. They're what we call delegated lenders. And the reason it's such a flexible program is we're not looking over their shoulders, so to speak, looking at every aspect of the deal. They sit down with you one-on-one, already knowing you as their customer, to provide you with the different tools under Export Express, which it can be fixed assets. It can also be used for foreign purchase orders. This program is limited to $500,000 though, so that's the balance of it. We restrict the lenders to provide up to $500,000 under Export Express in exchange for having that flexibility to work directly with the customer and get a deal closed faster. That's the whole idea behind it.
I love this whole sense of urgency thing. Close faster. It's coming fast for sure. All right. So what's this Patrick Hayes guy like in Cleveland? Do y'all speak highly of him? Do you know him?
He's the best. Yeah. In fact, after this call, I've got a call with him and I just can't wait.
Uh-huh.
That's my boss.
Oh, we couldn't tell if you were throwing some sarcasm at us there. All right. Well, tell him hello from us.
Happy.
Put a good word in
will
for
do.
us for Cincinnati here, Mike, would you please?
Absolutely. Yeah. He's loyal to Cleveland, but he's responsible for pretty much a big chunk of the Midwest and East. We're in the North team, we're called.
All right. Well, we'll reach out to him and make sure we know who each other is. All right, Jeff, we got a few minutes left here. So how do you want to wrap this up? Give everybody a minute or so to do their thing, or how do you want to wrap up, Jeff?
A couple more questions that came up.
Okay. So question for Margot, for example, could I receive a copy of this presentation?
Absolutely. Happy to share. And Jeff, we can coordinate. I can send to you if you'd like to send out, or I can send out to the. Perfect.
I could do the recording, and I also have your PowerPoints.
Perfect. Excellent.
So I could take care. My email is jeff@globalchamber.org if anybody needs the recording or the PowerPoints on each one. I do have a couple questions that came up.
Okay.
When is a good time to get into exporting? Is the first one.
Anytime, huh? What do y'all think?
Well, for SBA, it's a little more complicated. If you just walk into a bank and declare I'm an exporter as of today, and you have no business experience or no exporting experience even, we would probably tell you to slow down and introduce you to an SBDC counselor or maybe the U.S. Commercial Service or somebody on Margot's team to get you going. I know this is an extreme example, but on the flip side of that is we often have people that work in international trade and exporting on the corporate side. and they may have been in some important management or director position, and then they go off on their own. That's generally okay. And what we ask people to do is provide us with their export business plan, and really just tell the story of who they are, why their lender should trust them, be able to handle the responsibility, and why SBA should also be involved to provide a guarantee to that lender. So yeah, exporting, depending on your experience and what market you're going into and how reasonable your expectations are, you could conceivably start it right away.
Okay, and one last question we have for today are, what are the most common issues and barriers do you see for daily for exporters, and what are those solutions? That might not be a short answer, but. So I guess a couple of common issues and barriers.
Yeah, I would say just at a very high level, a way to preparation, education and preparation, I guess, is the best way to success. Some of the barriers that we see, of course, are companies that are not prepared. They're accidental exporters, and sometimes that can be detrimental, of course, to long-term success. You may receive some, requests online for your product, but you haven't really developed a strategy behind, let's say, expanding and growing in a particular market. And as Mike mentioned, that's where our SBDC network can really play an instrumental role in going through and establishing what your potential export plan might be. Another barrier, of course, is cost, and why I think the programs that we all talked about today are so important, because it helps to reduce the risk associated with some of the costs of exporting. And then again, that's a very high level. I'll let others answer since we're just about out of time.
Yeah, thanks for saying that about the risk. I think that's always a concern among all of us, isn't it? We all want to reduce risk.
All right, well, this concludes our day here. Larry, thank you for facilitating the Q&A there. Brad and Greg, thank you for your comments earlier, as they're chairs of our Chicago and Denver office respectively. And of course, thank you, Patty, Mike, Margot, for your input today. It was very it was a great learning experience for us, and we understand, but let's keep in mind, this is not just hearing them talk. Let's have conversations with them in the future.
Yeah.
We definitely open up to you here. They said, call us, please take them up on those offers. It's always better one-on-one to have those conversations about what your needs are and what your strategies are. So with that said, I want to thank everybody for attending today, and everybody have a great day, and we look forward to participating in our next one. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Nice job.
Bye-bye. Thank you.